Okay, here we go. 3, 2. And now we're here with new friend of the show, one of the co-hosts of the movie theater time machine. Let's welcome Nick Tabor to the show. Welcome, Nick.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me, y'all.
Well, absolutely. Welcome to the station. For those
Yeah.
people not familiar with you and your podcast, tell us a little bit about it.
All right, so Movie Theater Time Machine is a long-standing, we've been working about 6 years now, movie review show of just a blend of comedy and insanity. Some of us people have compared us to MST3K in given time, but we traditionally reviewed the older style Hollywood and really got into the experiences of what it was like to be in the theater and review those before the streaming world, before really like the tagline of the show is, the podcast where we keep it real to real. And, that's just real to real video. And I mean,
right.
Memories of Blockbuster, memories of a world that's gone, but it's just, as amateur movie geeks as we are, it's just fun to rip and dive into things. But our tag of the show is we have this thing called fantasy casting. And fantasy casting, where we replace actors or actresses of the movies with a random plethora of something, or whatever it may be. The crazier the better.
Gotcha.
I can understand that.
Yeah, one of the things we got to recently, we got into this kick of replacing any actor, every actor in a movie with the Muppets, except leaving one actor.
That's awesome.
And it just gets crazier and crazier every time we crack into it. We recently did a show, actually very close to the time of recording this one. We reviewed the movie Dolomite. Have either of you guys heard?
Oh yeah, we know Dolomite.
Yeah, we reviewed it. We were lucky enough to review it with Brad Jones, the cinema snob.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We had Brad on last week.
We're familiar with Brad.
Yeah, and he just he was super gracious with it. I mean, we were talking off, I shaved down my beard to a goatee, had a black suit on, looked at that, and he's like, dude, you look more like me than me.
You guys could almost be twins in some ways.
Yeah, and I just looked into the camera, I'm like, Dad?
Oh, I'm sure that made him feel well.
Oh, he laughed his ass off. He was it was a brief second of, holy crap, I just pissed off my guest. But reviewing Dolomite, we had everybody except Rudy Ray Moore as a Muppet. And a few weeks ago we reviewed the movie 300.
Mm-hmm.
But I forgot who we kept as a human. I think Gerard Butler was the only one, and everybody else was Muppets.
Sure.
And then the theories of how it came out was okay, you have just felt coming out later, or just the stuffing coming out when everybody gets stabbed.
Sure.
Actually, we really should save this when we do Saw next year for that. But if we do Saw, I don't know. But really, it's our show itself is really a celebration of genuine Hollywood. We've had several guests to come on. We had the curator of the Jimmy Stewart Museum.
Oh, very cool.
Come on last year. And I mean, she was just gracious as heck about everything, and just a very, very genuine person. And it was the closest I'll ever get to actually meeting Jimmy Stewart myself. So it's my biggest thing. But our show is just really about having a lot of fun and putting out a lot of good into the world. We started out on a time where, I don't know if you guys avoid politics here.
We try to. If you go a little bit into it, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, but I'm not getting deep into it. But our first episode was recorded the week after Donald Trump was inaugurated.
Okay.
So it was right at the time, at the peak when everything was getting crazier. Well, I mean, it got worse, but I mean, it got crazier and crazier. And it's okay, now we've got to do this just to throw out some fun. And throw out insanity and do the best we can.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
because you had to lighten the mood somehow with everything.
Yeah, and I mean, it's our thing, and I mean, for we're just trying to and it's good therapy too, as well. It's just we make
That's
the
all
money for it.
podcasting really is. That's all
Really, yeah,
podcasting really is. Just
it's
therapy for
cheaper
all of us.
therapy.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm the one who pays the bills here. It is not cheaper
Yeah.
than therapy. So no, no way there, Nick.
So Nick, let me ask you,
Yeah.
because we've all, everybody from the minute they're born, at least experiences movies to some degree. When did you discover that you were when did you say to yourself, wow, I'm a movie buff, I'm a movie fan,
Okay.
this is something that is extra
Yeah.
special for me? Like, what was there, a particular movie or?
Yeah, I got a great story for that. I mean, it was there's a few points of it, but it really came from my grandma, who my grandmother was a tremendous old Hollywood fan. Like, you could give her one line and she could tell you the movie, who did it, who was wearing which dress, and who she saw at the, or what happened. And it was, we were really, really young, and they took me to see The Lion King. And and then every year for Christmas, she had this really beautiful tree, and I wouldn't say they had a ton of money, but they had, they were very well off, my grandparents. And every year we went to see this really cool movie, and whatever we saw, there was a Christmas ornament of that movie in the tree
Oh, wow.
every
Oh,
year.
really?
And
Oh,
it
very
just,
cool.
so like, sometime in the late 80s, we went to see, Batman, and, there was, the original Batman. And I'm like, oh, perfect, this is great. And then there's the Batmobile. And then, they went to see it, like, and I think I saw that movie so many times, because over the years there was like Joker, and then there's the Riddler, and then there's so many others.
Sure.
And when we went to see Back to the Future, there was Doc Brown in the tree, and it kept going and kept going. And then in my college years, I actually have a poster. Well, it's not here, but it's in my living room, as a giant poster of Casablanca.
Nice.
And I had a friend of mine in college who kept dragging me. He was a film major, and he's like, oh, I got to bring somebody every time to go see a movie. And he kept dragging me. I'm like, don't you have a girl you can kind of, bring with you, man? Because some of them were just total crap, and some of them were fine, but there's really weird experimental movies. And she's like, no, like, let me show you what real Hollywood is. And she went to the library and brought Casablanca, and then I'm like, that just, old Hollywood just lives in my brain 24/7, and everything else.
That's awesome and amazing to hear. I'm a big fan of movies, particularly classic movies. Turner Classic Movies is the default channel on my TV. And I always appreciate, especially now, so many more people talking about classic movies. I mean, I like talking about new movies too, but I think a lot of people are so obsessed with everything that's like here and now, rather than, I mean, you're looking at your reviews. I mean, you go back to the 1900s to up through like today. So I mean, there's nothing that, it doesn't seem like there's anything that's off limits for you.
No. It was in the theater at some point, although we cheated last year when we did Sharknado.
Oh, gotcha.
Because that was just something, once we heard about it, we're like, are you freaking, that's a real thing? Okay, then we watched all 6 movies, and we're like, oh my God, we got to review these. Like, we've got to review these. These are so bad. But yeah, there's really not much off limits. I mean, our general rule, as long as it was in the theater at some point. But to your point with movies, I think now you don't have a monoculture anymore. Where, like, we have movies now that get streamed, and you could see it on HBO Max, or you can go to the theater. And a few years ago, everything was straight to streaming, because of the pandemic. But
Right.
What we've lost, and why it's so good, is some of these are so are pushed out in what I call the boardroom movies, because you can tell they're put together and they're put together so quickly, and some of them aren't bad. Like what surprised me was the kids movie Trolls 2, which, well, I'm like, that one was decent. Like that one was fun. Not the one I'm gonna put in every time, but like
Right.
you have that movie, and then if you compare that to something like the classic, one of the classic kid movies, Home Alone, where it's almost perfect.
Right. Right.
It's almost perfect because, but people, I think when you didn't have so much of a monoculture, people, for when the studios stopped having a really big grip on things in the 40s and 50s, and then you had these people who just had their love letters to or whatever they're going to do or whatever they're going to put together. I mean, you had it was Home Alone, for example, as well. That one's in my head, was a love letter or something. Like Chris Columbus, put it all together and designed it, and almost the entirety of the movie, almost all of it was filmed inside of a high school during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the inside of the house was an old high school gym. And Robert Zemeckis doing Back to the Future, and then Robert Zemeckis also doing Forrest Gump. And a lot of stuff, Robert Zemeckis he loved the script so much that he put his own money into the movie just to make it better. And I mean, you don't have that now, because with the way the internet is, like,
Right.
You have something like, Black Adam, and you have Wakanda Forever right now, which unfortunately, I mean, those two are very important to their genres, but it's going to be forgotten very soon, because the next thing's going to come up, and then the next thing's going to come up, and then you got people who are not even paying attention to it. We're a few weeks away from Thanksgiving right now, and you have people who are just flipping on the Hallmark Channel and watching the crappy Christmas movies 20%.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, no offense. I mean, I've known people who make those, and there's a market for it for sure. Some
Oh yeah,
people are
yeah,
really addicted to
yeah.
those things, and that's fine. But the one thing I find especially with, like, black and white movies, classic movies, is that a lot of times the conversation around them now tends to be stuff that's like talking about the negatives, talking about how politically incorrect they are now, or how they
Yeah.
this, that, and the other thing, or how they they do things better now, et cetera, et cetera. But I find, when I watch a lot of these classic movies, not everything, sure, but I mean a lot of the great ones certainly, is how relevant they still are, and
Yes.
how amazing in that sense. And sometimes it's relevant in a good way, and sometimes it's relevance and it's like, wow, it's like they're talking about this like 100 years ago, not what has changed,
And
right? Like
nothing changed, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had that in our review it was about a year ago. We our second episode, we reviewed one of my favorite movies of all time, was Jimmy Stewart's Harvey.
Right. Yes.
We reviewed that again with our new with the new cast, because the first time it was just me and my wife, and then we reviewed it for different perspectives, but it was like an accidental commentary on mental health.
Mhm.
Oh, big time.
Because
Very much so.
how you have Elwood P. Dowd, who everybody's like, oh, he's crazy, he's nuts, and you actually watch him during the movie, I'm like, he really ain't so bad. I mean, the guy sees a giant rabbit, but he tells the coolest stories. I kind of want to hang with that guy.
I always worried, though, that Harvey ended up looking like the rabbit in Donnie Darko or something.
Oh, there have been a lot of comparisons between Donnie Darko and that movie.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, there's we actually spawned one of the theories that had we found it on Reddit. And it came from our show, was at the very end of Harvey, towards the end, the cab driver comes in and starts changing around things.
Mhm.
And we believe that was Harvey himself.
Gotcha.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was Harvey taking, from taking that form and taking human form just to screw around a little bit more. And one of our co-hosts just brought that up, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, and I brought it up to Jeannie, the Jimmy Stewart coordinator, and she's like, wait, hold on, wait, what? I'm like, yeah. Even it's like, wait, hold on. Hang on. Like it wrinkles the brain just thinking about it.
Mind
But
blown.
yeah, and I think they're relevant because they're very simple stories. Like one of my favorite movies of Harvey, obviously, but one of my favorites, guilty pleasures, is Arsenic and Olays.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah,
One of my
Great
wife's
play,
favorite.
great
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
The Cary Grant one, of course.
Yeah, I mean, Cary Grant is playing somebody dealing with the fact that his aunts are murdering people.
Basically, yeah.
And but it's a little complex, but it's a comedy. But even if you think about it now, it's a horror story, but there's not one single swear in it
Right.
at all. But it's the comedy is almost totally nonverbal. Where like the two aunts are talking, and then one of the old ladies just grabs one of the gentleman's hats and then puts it in a shelf
Right.
with a bunch of other hats and says nothing.
Right. You
Yeah.
could take that script, the dialogue and everything, and make a horror movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
Oh yeah, you can
instead of a comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have a brother who thinks he's the president, and trying to change things and then burying people in the basement. Yeah, you could turn that into a horror, but the right people were in the right time. Just, where Howard Hawks, threw everything at it, and and then he just went, okay, let's try this. But Cary Grant hated the movie. He hated it because he thought he was playing too silly, and there was thoughts and talks for a while that they would revive it. And I think this was like, I put this in as fantasy casting, that Robin Williams was interested in reviving that. And
I
I'm
could
like,
see it. I could really see that.
couldn't you?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
I think Robin would be great in that role.
Yeah, but just playing, because he can do, like, here's his crazy, and then here's the crazy funny comedy, and then he can also do in between. But his versatility was, and we did a whole month of Robin Williams too, and we might do another one at some point in time if we ever get a BetterHelp sponsorship, where the right one comes about.
Right.
Just to piggyback off your listeners, but I mean, if anybody is, you by all means, go right ahead.
Feel free.
Go right ahead if you give us
free.
money. But because it's our therapy. But
That's right.
but the movies are simple and the movies are interesting, and I mean, I think it's where the industry was even at its infancy, that it's not trying to one up anybody, it's just trying to tell a story.
Right.
Right. That's where I think it gets better, because you see some genres that last over and over and over, like James Bond. Like James Bond has ebbs and flows.
Oh, sure.
But Daniel Craig's James Bond was pretty awesome. Like, was pretty awesome, and you watch those, you're like, yeah, this is great. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, that's a franchise probably more than any other that's it's been around so long, and it reinvents itself every every other decade, or certainly every incarnation of Bond. And it's it's really cool that you've devoted now over 300 episodes to all these classic movies. It's amazing to me, and it's a great thing. So but now that we found out a little bit more about you and your podcast, Mike, I think it's about time we find out where his real passions lie.
Oh,
All right.
I think so.
All
I
right.
think it's time. You know, he's been like going, "Hey, I'm so cool. I'm just a movie guy. I can handle this." Well, it's time to see what he's really about in the geek seat, you know?
Do it. All
All right, Nick.
right.
He's all cocky now, but you know, we've had people in tears over the geek seat, so it's okay. All right, Nick. What was your favorite geek out moment?
Oh man. My favorite geek out moment of all time was when I was in New York City and I met Neil Patrick Harris accidentally.
Oh,
Oh,
do tell.
And I was working for a hotel company at the time, and we were touring hotels, and I was a part of a big sales team. And our supervisor was saying, if you run into celebrities, do not, and I'll give you a twofer actually, but do not call them by their character names. Do not do any of that. Just call, say hello, nice to meet you, and move on. Be professional. And we were walking across the street, and my supervisor was about a little over 4 feet tall, or under 5 feet. Neil Patrick Harris is about as tall as I am, and they just hit each other.
oh,
And
literally.
she turns around and goes, "You're Doogie Howser." And I'm like, oh, but like, and, we had a good time about 20 minutes beforehand at a bar, heading the other way. And I'm like, hey, my name's Nick. I'm Neil. He's like, hey, I'm Neil. How you doing? I'm like, man, really big fan. I love Barney Stinson. I was naming some of his movies. He goes, dude, that's really cool, man. That's really great. And he says, you know what? You dress really snazzy. And I'm like, Neil Patrick Harris complimented the way I dress. So like, it probably
Can't
had
complain about that.
probably had an effect. And there was one also there. I'll give you because it's a twofer thing. I met Vivica A. Fox
Oh,
in a
nice.
hotel. Sweet as can be, but I was working for the same hotel company. And we passed by in the lobby, and I recognized her, and I went, "Are you Miss Vivica Fox?" And my brain scrambled, oozed out of my ears, and the only thing I could say was, "I wish you didn't die in Kill Bill."
Will
And
your daughter get revenge in the next one?
she just went, "Thank you, like you're really cool."
I
And
really think you're awesome.
yeah, and it's really no mistake. Like, she is genuinely a beautiful woman. Like, when you're looking at it, so it was like a striking moment. I'm like, that's Vivica A. Fox, and I mean, an incredibly talented woman who I believe is very underrated. But
Yeah.
there's fun stuff.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is really, really awesome. But let's look at the other side of that. What
Yeah.
turns your geek off?
When an actor, or I mean, I'm a movie geek itself, but when an actor is genuinely fake
Really?
and really not when they're not really being themselves, or trying to be way too, for like, they're an actor, they have range, and I'm like, just, you play your part, play your lane, stay in your lane. Everybody's gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's gonna be fine with it. Like, there's a meme out there. I saw this and it's related to Dwayne Johnson. Like, I think Dwayne Johnson's a good actor. Not all of his movies are amazing. I haven't seen Black Adam yet, but there's a meme where they had like 4 of Dwayne Johnson's clips from his movies. It's like, is this all from the same movie? And then below it said, no, it's 4. And you're looking like, really? And you're like, are you playing that? Then he started playing some different stuff. And I'm like, no, man, you're out of your lane. Just, Bruce Willis is always going to be, the diehard dude. Kevin Hart is always going to be insanely funny. Jimmy Stewart, no matter what, is always going to be Jimmy Stewart. Stay in your lane. That's what that gets me, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's always going to be Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
Well,
Jimmy
exactly.
Stewart is always going to be Dwayne Johnson.
Exactly. Damn straight.
That
awesome.
that would be
Your
that's a
candy
weird
ass.
casting choice.
That would be awesome. What geeks you out the most?
Oh man, I'm not gonna get rid of that image.
Hey, granted, I got the same haircut as him. But what geeks me out the most is like, I like it when you're in the middle of something, or like when you're really just completely drawn in on whatever it is. And like, I had an example on this. We met one of my favorite singer of all time is a woman, Robin Adele Anderson. Nobody knows who she is.
I know who she is.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
See, he
You're
just
the
geeked
one-
out over that. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
You're the one person I think who's
I do
like,
know
hey,
who
I know
she
she is too, but
Yeah.
20 Songbird songs.
Didn't she do some singing with
Postmodern
Postmodern
Jukebox.
Jukebox? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I know.
Jukebox, one of the original singer of that band.
She's a pretty good pinup too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not
So,
saying
go
I
ahead.
don't ever,
Go ahead.
Her
Sorry.
calendar is right over there too. So it's in my office. But we met her in New York City, and I'm going back to New York here, but we met her in a nightclub that was behind a diner that was behind these curtains, and it was just total transfixiation right into the 40s. A complete vibe. Like, everybody had their own fake names in this really bizarre world. I mean, when you're watching something like, like Casablanca, and you kind of forget for a while that you're like, oh yeah, I gotta vote for an auditor tomorrow, or okay, I've got that report due at work, or I got this bill to pay. Like, when it completely engulfs you. Even like, I see the poster in your background, Mike, of I see the Doctor Who Van Gogh poster behind you. Like, when it's completely like, even though, like, the entirety of Matt Smith's run, like when you watch it and you just forget where you are for a while, like that's the stuff we want to be a part of.
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah, we want to do here.
Nope, I totally understand that. You mentioned earlier about your favorite geek out moment. What was your
Yep.
most disappointing geek out moment?
I I worked for a hotel company, and one of the things we did was it was in a call center, and every once in a while celebrities got on the phone, and there was that it would pop up with the number and the name and all that, and one of them said John Travolta.
Oh,
And
cool.
like, John Travolta has done some terrible movies, but when he's bad, he stays in his lane and he's terrible. But when he's good and when he's got it, man, he's really high up there. And it was his pilot who just put in the wrong, like, he put in the wrong number, but he tried to play off that he was John Travolta and just had a terrible, like, impression of him. So I'm like, hi, Mr. Travolta, this is Nick. How may I help you? He was like, yeah. Hi, how you doing? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you ain't even trying, man. Like, there's some that have popped up every now and then, and I'm like, I just, if it's not you, just be real, or just be who you are. And that just really, people who try to be fake, really, I think that's my answer.
No, totally understand that. And that kind of leads into the next question then for you.
Mm-hmm.
What fictional character would you like to meet the most?
Oh man, I'm gonna say the Doctor.
Which one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which one? Good. Yeah, it's 10 and 14.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 10 and 14. I mean, would be
They
like,
look very similar. I don't know why.
I know they do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew those teeth,
Yeah.
but like, when
Teeth. These hands.
what?
What?
But it just, something's going to be really cool and something's going to be really bizarre, and I've thought about that over and over again. I mean, if you had to meet someone who could take you to any particular point in time, and the beautiful part of Doctor Who lore is the fact that as long as you're near the TARDIS, is whatever you're speaking in the other language. You know, there's a great line during Matt Smith's run, and Jenna Coleman standing behind him. She's like, "Am I speaking Russian?" She's like, "Yeah, I don't have any time to explain that right now."
Right.
But it just David Tennant. I mean, you know, Peter Capaldi had the same thing where like he wanted to be the Doctor ever since he was little. But David Tennant got into acting because he wanted to be the Doctor. Now he's the Doctor again, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to hang out with you.
Okay.
A
I
lot.
totally could see that.
Yeah.
Or as they say, whoever hangs out with the Doctor is never ever the same after.
Yeah. You know, but then again, it kind of would be worth going through all of it after a while. Even if I
very true.
Yeah.
What fictional character would you like to meet the least?
This one's kind of tough, but I would you know, I'm gonna go with one of my favorite movies ever. I mentioned it earlier, Harvey. And I would really say his sister. I would, just because the whole movie, she's trying to prove him wrong and not going with it. But because I'd see his sister just going a little bit, getting a little odder and a little odder, I'm afraid she would drive me crazy. And, you know, then I would end up in Chumley's Rest.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the reason. You explained so much right there.
It really does.
Yes. What is your favorite geek word, phrase, quote, or pose?
Man. Favorite one, I gotta go with the 10th Doctor again, LNZ.
LNZ.
I've done that so many times, and I think one of the favorites that I've done is, I'd say, phrase though, has also been from the movie Harvey. I had this in my professional work email for a while, and also because of we're sponsored by adamandeve.com and for Movie Theater Time Machine, and we try to work in the ad in the weirdest possible way. You know, to try to, like, you know, and then I had the phrase from the movie, you know, I recommend pleasant, always pleasant. And I, you know, sometimes where I drop that in, I don't tell anybody when I'm going to do it. And I just said, you know, in the Jimmy Stewart voice, I'm like, I recommend pleasant, always pleasant. I'm like, speaking of pleasant, adamandeve.com has an offer code for us at MTTM. And, you know, and we all just lost it. But I'd say I recommend pleasant, always pleasant is some sort of, it's the guide for me.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That is cool. And it's cool to have Adam and Eve as your sponsor. So that's awesome.
They do good stuff. It's for us. Yeah.
Well, I'd hope so, but that's a whole different story. What is your ideal geek occupation?
I always wanted to be the janitor in some sort of lair, or some sort of, like, you know, like, even if it's like the Fantastic Five, or, you know, or Superman's hovel, or in the Superman's fortress, or even the boys, even in you know, in Vought, just to see where things are, because I've always wanted to see some big level or something, and just to see somebody on the other side. And I always wanted to be that one in the background that would kind of change things a little bit, just to keep it going, or just to be the background changer, just because I always thought something like, you think Batman, like, if you're the janitor, and, you know, in Batman's cave, and, you know, like, that guy Bruce Wayne has got to be the biggest neat freak of all time. You know,
he has to be. He has to be.
But I would love to be that one that would walk in and just see his desk and just move his stapler 3 inches to the right.
Yeah.
And just see what happens. But if you imagine, like, you know, if it's like Adam West Batman, like, somebody moved my stapler, gee willikers, what happened? Or, you know,
it's Alfred. It's always Alfred. It's always the butler. The butler did it.
It was me, Mr. Wayne, or something, and I just sitting in the back.
Alfred, get down here now.
Right, yeah. Who am I straight for? Or and I'm just like sweeping in the background, like.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. What geek occupation would you not like to do?
There has got to be someone who is just I think of, and I was thinking about this a lot, but I cannot remember the name of the woman, but the movie The Incredibles, the woman who does all the costumes for them.
Oh, Edna.
Edna, yeah, but thank
Edna
you.
Mode.
Yeah, I could not remember her name, and I'm seeing her. I'm thinking about this all day. I'm like, the hell is that woman? But there's got to be something.
No capes for you.
Yeah, right. Or something about like a seamstress or a costume designer, because there's got to be a point where a superhero or somebody just starts to let themselves go, and you've got to redo the costume every now and then. It's like the biggest fear or something, or like, some
Unstable molecules, dude. It just stretches with them. That's how the Hulk and She-Hulk get away with,
At least he kept his pants on, but you're seeing it like, or something happened. Like, I told you not to eat the Taco Bell. I got to do it again. Oh my God, no.
No capes and no tacos.
Yeah, I don't know what accent that was, by the way. I think I aimed for Russia and went way far east. So
I think she has her own thing going on. So it's okay.
yeah, but I don't know what I did in general. So
that's okay. Yeah,
I'll
leave it up to the audience to judge that. It's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, judge away, as long as you subscribe.
Exactly.
But...
Bingo. Plug. All right, Nick. Ready for your final question in the Geek Seat, my friend?
Sure.
All right. What is your ultimate geek fantasy?
I would love to have one day or at least a week in a James Bond style life. To be, to do that, to gamble somewhere on a craps table. And, if you think about it, really, James Bond is one of those dudes that, not many people think about this. As a character, he's got an unlimited amount supply of money. He knows he might die in a mission. So he's just cashing it in and just rolling with it. Like, there's going to be no tomorrow, and wakes up and goes, or all I could do is the James Connery style, Sean Connery style. But like, he's like, oh, bloody hell, I gotta do it again. Okay. I can just keep going, and I'm like, all right, fine. And then just keep going and moving. I think for that would be to live that life, but then run into the doctor and then go find somewhere else to keep doing it again. And then living in a loop and kind of going past her. Like, I would imagine if I was the doctor's companion, I would screw up royally, and it would be something like, where he has to turn the TARDIS around again and start over. My favorite episodes of Futurama, where they've created a time machine and they had to like reverse around, like turn the universe around and start again, like 3 feet ahead, and just keep going and keep going. And like, something would screw up and you go, oh, damn it, I got to do it again. And move the TARDIS around and try, like, don't screw it up again. And I'd probably get caught in an infinite loop for a little while and finally fix it. I don't know what that would be, but that would be my ultimate geek fantasy. All of that.
Wow, that's
all tied together. All tied together.
I would imagine, certainly, it would be my luck if I, found a genie in a lamp and I made my wish, like, I want to be James Bond for a day. Like, that day would be the day that he's tied to that chair and he gets tortured in Casino Royale. That would be the day I'd be like, this is not what I wanted whatsoever.
You got one day, and then you have like,
here's your one day,
whack. Like, oh no, thank you.
Yeah, when you said that one day tied into a chair, like, you wake up and then it's the scene in Casino and in Skyfall, and you see Javier Bardem just start walking, and you're like, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, you know, whenever he's tied to a chair, nothing good is going to happen.
No.
Nothing good is going to happen. So
No,
you have to
no,
be
no, no,
have
no.
to be a lot more specific when you wish
Yeah.
for being James Bond, because
But
there's a
here's
good
something
side
that-
and there's a
listen.
not so good side.
But here's something, Mr. Mike, that is good. He's made it through the Geek Seat. Congratulations, Nick.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Yeah,
You
good
made it through
job.
with flying colors. Mr. Mike
Yeah.
Gordon, tell the young man what he's won.
You have won a lifetime subscription to the ESO network, a value easily worth 1,064 pesos.
So
Pesos.
$6.
Pesos.
You know, the weirdest thing that the station currency thing, just machine went bonkers this week. I don't know. I mean, they're still trying to get around it, but
Hey, it's still
I don't
better
know
than what we would make in Canada. So it's okay.
I have
Yeah.
I have no idea what that actually amounts to,
Yeah.
but you know.
Did you try turning it off, turn it back on again?
I took the sledgehammer to it, so it's okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, we
That's
did that with
the
our
ult-
time machine a while back.
the ultimate turn off, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean to the machine, of course. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm pumped.
Well, Nick, it's been amazing having you join us. For those people who
Yeah,
want to
man.
check out your show, where can they find you and the show?
Yeah, Movie Theater Time Machine. I mean, you can find it anywhere where there's a podcast. Some of our episodes are not on YouTube right now. We're trying to fight that. Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, we got iHeartRadio, and anywhere really. Just Google Movie Theater Time Machine, a podcast, and you'll find us. And
Awesome.
we'll be happy to have you listen and keep plugging away with us.
Absolutely. And we will definitely have a link to that in our show notes to make it easier for people to just click and check you out.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Not a problem. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back. And we are going to be talking all about House of Dragons. Boom. And we're done.
Dun, dun,